All right, well, hello. Welcome, one and all, to the 52nd episode of Body of the Cloud9 Fancast. Tonight, we shall discuss the CSGO, Smash, and Rocket League results, more Overwatch bemoaning, and ask if Cloud9 has what it takes to win their Gauntlet match. I'm your host, Havokpus, and today I'm joined by...
The Doctor of Manhattan is back from Boston. Dr. Manhattan joining the cast once again.
Frozencreek, what's up, guys? I know League of Legends is mostly leaving us, but in return, we're getting some college football. So,
Football.
it's looking good so far. 1 week, played the Cupcake team, so I'm not mad at this point. Just give it a couple more weeks.
Awesome.
Cupcakes. Wow. All right, well, let's get right into it. So,
one quick question. Hey, Dr. Manhattan, are you a college football fan?
More or less, try to keep up with it as much as I possibly can.
Or which team?
Around here, it's all about the Terps, but
Okay.
I do enjoy just watching like some of the bigger teams like Michigan or Notre Dame.
and of course, you're reigning
you're like
overlords
Maryland
of
area?
Alabama.
No one likes to watch them.
Oh, come on. I like to watch them, even though Jalen Hurts is the worst quarterback you've ever seen.
God, I hate Nick Saban.
I love him so much. He's so angry all the time. He's
I
like an angry football gnome.
Like Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, or no, Jim Harbaugh's a giant fucking fuckhead. But I can respect Saban because he coached at Michigan State.
There we go. Common ground.
Yeah. I'll give him that just because he coached at Michigan State. And
Plus, he is also
their-
the most winningest coach in college football.
partially because of what he did at Michigan State.
Yes.
Something like that. All right. Yeah, let's jump in. Now that we know Dr. Manhattan's a Maryland fan.
Yes. Will we have a college football discussion section? Probably not, but it'll probably come up sooner or later.
Good to know.
But yes. So for now, let's get on with the show. So, Ally participated in the PAX Smash 4 Invitational, and he continues to improve to exciting kind of success. He finished 4th at this tournament, which is better than last tournament where he finished 5th, so he's climbing up that ladder. He beat some big names such as Immortal's Anti and CLG's Void, but he lost to Salem in the loser semis. I'm not super familiar on the Smash 4 scene, but it seems like Bayonetta is an extremely annoying character to play against.
Yeah, she just has way too many good matchups to this point. Granted, and I think Zero actually posted a video on his thoughts on the whole Bayonetta controversy. She just can play very safe, especially with some of her aerial combos that tend to just disrupt a lot. Which time can essentially just seal games completely. And
yeah, I was gonna mention the witch time mechanic seems kind of broken.
yeah, it's absolutely stupid. And she can and her recovery in terms of just even at high percentages just is the most ridiculous thing ever. Which has caused a lot of people, to be up arms about it. Granted, the only Bayonetta mains I know that are topping events consistently is Salem and Captain Sack hasn't been doing too hot. Those are the only two Bayo mains that I know have been doing very well. Salem was actually the most prominent one, considering he beat Zero at Evo with it. And as you can see, I think this is the second time in a row in the top brackets where Ally lost to Salem. But yeah, it's just really annoying, especially with the Mario matchup. It's not very good. But, it's good to see our boy Ally, slowly but surely, again, just completely trying to climb the ladders. Because ever since Evo, it's just been a disaster for him. And, I just like to see him topping this shit again, considering the Bayo shit's been tilting him too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I would probably get tilted considering all of the crazy aerial stuff that Bayonetta could do. But it's really good to see that he is just doing better and better with each tournament he goes, and I think after maybe a couple more, he'll get back to maybe finishing, top 3, maybe getting 2nd, maybe even 1st if we're lucky. But he definitely seems to be getting back into form after taking that hiatus.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean,
if you will.
He almost like he forced I think a game 5 against Nairo, which is no easy feat at all considering Nairo this season has been absolutely hot. And he did Anti's also been on a climb as well. So I mean, considering the past PGR season wasn't kind of Anti, but after I forget what event, but that Anti won against Larry Lur. Anti's been on the rise, so is Void. So really, really good shit to see out of Ally.
Yes, good shit indeed. Moving on to CSGO, Cloud9 fell to SK Gaming 0-2 at the DreamHack Malmo tournament, causing them to be dropped from the tournament. They're actually also playing against Immortals like right now as we're recording this. They lost their first match and some completely bullshit stompy number like 16-5 or something. They're continuing to struggle. I'm not sure how much we can really talk about it at this point since it's still a relatively new roster, but I am kind of curious how long fans and Cloud9 management will be satisfied with these losses until something else is done and more roster changes are done with. Just kind of an interesting thought. You guys don't have to answer it, but it's just kind of interesting considering they went from looking like they've improved and have looking pretty well at going to the major, and they got second at like ESL Cologne, and they were looking really good, and then nothing in Shroud leaves, and then you're having to kind of start back at square one, and they're just really struggling to kind of find their identity and how they play, I think.
Yeah, I think Cloud9 has dealt with this pretty consistently across the board so far, especially in League when we were without High, and then when we needed something important, High came back and would play for us for a little bit. Most specifically, Season 5 when we almost didn't make Worlds. I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of roster change come up at some point, whether it was Nothing or Shroud coming back and playing for a qualification tournament, though I don't want to count on that, just because I think they've been playing a lot of other games at this point. And I don't even think that they're the answer. It's not like High where he completely controlled a game just by being there. But I think they do deserve a little more time. I think through one more major at least, and then we can make a decision from there on out. I think that they've showed some positives that we might not have seen out of the older retired folks, but I think overall the team hasn't been performing up to where we've been expecting out of the new people and out of the rest of the roster overall.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you kind of can't blame Cloud9 for having these issues because whenever you have to basically start from scratch on a roster, it's just really hard to rebuild it because you have to consider, you want talent, but you also want to still keep the synergy with the players you have. So it's this give and take of, chemistry versus just raw talent. And sometimes it can be hard to find players that can give both. You have to maybe go through a few iterations until you find something that can really stick again. I know that the CSGO team actually had an issue before when Nothing retired. I think this was like a year or two ago. He stepped down, and then darn it, what's his face got kicked off for bullying one of the other CSGO
Freakazoid.
players on Freakazoid. Yes. Freakazoid got kicked because he was being an asshole.
Not a great moment.
So they had to, they had to rebuild the roster again, and they were playing with Irakanji and a couple other people, and they were again in this point where they were really struggling to do well and be successful. So I think we're just in another turbulent phase where they're having to try people out, try to see what works with what they have, maybe swap someone out and try something different. So I think that with enough patience, the CSGO roster will once again maintain a nice peak of performance and be fairly consistent. But I think right now we're just in a turbulent phase. that we have to get through. So Rocket League had actually a pretty big win over the weekend. Cloud9 has qualified for Season 4 of the Rocket League Championship Series. This is a big deal, especially because they won against Set to Destroy X, who knocked out the Cloud9 roster. They weren't under Cloud9, but it was like the Muffin Men or whatever, and they actually kicked them out of the Rocket League qualification tournament. So the fact that the team came back, they beat Set to Destroy, they got the qualification spot. I think they won 3-1, and as always, they looked really good. So to see Rocket League winning, crushing all the competition, winning a pretty major victory once again, I think it just goes to show that this Rocket League pickup was a great choice and is probably going to be a banner team for us in no time.
Yeah, I think that they've performed really well so far. Aren't they all like super young too? Like they're all like 16 and 17 or something?
I'm unsure about their age, but I know Squishy looks super young. I'm not sure about Torment and Gimmick, but Squishy looks super young, and Squishy's super nice. Everyone just seems to, they work together really well. They're just super nice dudes. So definitely is a great team.
Yeah, I think that they've shown up so far. I can't say I've watched too much of it. But everything that I've watched, they've looked really good so far.
Yeah. All right. So time for more Overwatchmen. So Cloud9 played against Bazooka Puppies, and they beat them 3-1 in a pretty dominant performance. I think the rosters really gelled together even after their pretty devastating loss to Misfits. Everything is looking onwards and upwards with them. Sinatra did not play, but Mikey A did sub in, and he looked like a pretty decent replacement. He wasn't at Sinatra's level, but he was playing pretty well considering who he was subbing in for. The only real complaint I have is when it was on map 4 and they were playing on Gibraltar, everything just really fell apart for Cloud9. It might be just that they're not really practiced on Gibraltar and they don't have a lot of good strats for it. Or there was just a breakdown in communication. They just got tilted and couldn't come back to win that map. But a 3-1 victory is pretty good. Glad to see that Nevix is really stepping up. Glad to see that all the other people that we have playing really stepped up. And it's really great. Frozen, did you try to watch the match to contribute to the Overwatch conversation?
No, I missed it this week. This weekend was insanely busy. Like, I could go on for 5 minutes about everything that I did. So no, I was not able to watch it. I didn't watch anything this weekend that I was not at.
All right,
but we
Dr.
can talk
Manhattan,
about.
Did Dr. Manhattan watch it?
I actually did not, unfortunately.
Damn it! I'm the only one that watches Overwatch in this show.
Yeah, I think once we learn more about what this team is going to be, I will either decide to become interested or not. It just sucks because there's like 100% chance Detroit is not getting a team for 2 or 3 years minimum, and who knows if the ship will be around by then. I mean, maybe Renegades will pull something out of their ass, but I doubt it. So I might end up just watching this anyway, just because I do want to watch it, and I wish that they would decide on kind of set times on when they would play, because LCS does do that really well, where they play on the weekends at really good times, so you can kind of plan out when they're playing.
Yeah, that's why I like LCS.
Yeah.
It's because it's really stable. Because anything with a stable schedule, I love, because you can plan out your day around it, like you said. But this is actually a really great transitioning point for us. You mentioned about the uncertainty of the roster at this point. Well, there's good news and bad news for you guys. I'm going to give you the bad news first. Cloud9 lost a bidding war with NRG for Sinatra. Sinatra signs to NRG for a $150,000 contract. On the upside, our boy Surefour, Big Daddy Surefour, is now listed as a sub for the Cloud9 EU contenders squad. So I guess I'm asking, has Cloud9 lost out on a huge opportunity, or has this simply opened a window for some of our currently signed NA players to maybe get back in, maybe even solidify an Overwatch League spot?
I think that they might not have wanted to overpay for Sinatra if they knew that Surefour was okay playing on the EU team, because I think Surefour is kind of the heart and soul of the Cloud9 Overwatch roster at this point. And in they kind of play the same people. Like Surefour is a really good tracer.
Yeah.
So,
Them and Sinatra and Surefour are probably within maybe top 4, top 5 tracers in North America. So having at least one or the other is definitely a good thing.
yeah, if it were up to me, I would have Surefour just because he's kind of been with us for a while. I wish we had Kaiser back. I was watching Runaway the other day in Apex, and he didn't even play. So, or in what I watched at least. So I wish we could get him back, but I don't know. I guess we're still going on through the experiment, and I think that losing a bidding war with energy for a position that we kind of already had covered, if Surefour was down, isn't going to be the worst thing in the world. Just because they both kind of play the same thing. And I think that Surefour is more of a pull for Cloud9 fans than Sinatra would be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other great thing about this Contenders roster is that since Cloud9, and to an extension Immortals, since Immortals also has a spot, is that since they already have the league spot locked down, they can just use all this free time to use their Contenders roster as just a testing ground for individual players and to see how the player works as an individual in like an actual competitive setting and how they work well as a team. Surefour is already a tried and true Cloud9 member, so I think that everyone would be overjoyed if he was to join the league roster. The one thing that I'm just really nervous about is that signing doesn't end until October 30th, so we still have like basically 2 months, a little less than 2 months, for teams to like negotiate and scout and do all this other crazy stuff, and just the whole waiting of trying to find out when, like, all right, when, you know, what's Cloud9's name gonna be, what's their logo gonna look like, what are their jerseys gonna look like, who do they sign, are they gonna go with this 6-man Korean roster that that's kind of been rumored? Are they gonna take some of their NA players that they have and move them over for them to play to London? Are they going to just do what they're doing now and just have this Contenders roster? It's still all up in the air, and it's kind of crazy. So I think mostly it's just the waiting that's killing me.
Yeah, and like the good thing is that it's going to be coming around right when league ends, so maybe they found a good niche there. Just because Worlds is over the last week in October, so this is like,
I think so. Yeah, it's late
timing?
October when it finishes.
Yeah, so I guess it's perfect timing to hand off to Overwatch. Still interested to see how this is gonna turn out, but I think that it's pretty good timing. I know I'm gonna be dying to watch something at that point. So honestly, at the end of the day, I'm probably gonna end up watching Cloud and Overwatch. So.
Go team, go. Dr. Manhatten, do you care about Overwatch? Any to talk about it?
I do. I mean, it's really, really the whole.
It's too soon. Is that maybe your?
Possibly, yeah. I'd have to
issue?
warm up to it a bit more.
Yeah. The whole league thing is still in the early phases. Teams are still having to sign players, and they're I think a few spots for the first inaugural season. I think they won like 12 teams. And I think we only have like 9 or 10 that have signed, so they're still missing a few spots. So it's still in the early phases. I'm hoping that we do get more information about it soon, because with more information, that means we can talk about it and the more we can talk about it, we can kind of get an idea of where this whole thing is heading. So the less uncertainty, the better. But anyway, let's move on to the Gauntlet discussion. CLG stomped Dig 3-0 in the third place match, so that means that FlyQuest is going to play Dignitas on Friday. CLG is going to play the winner of that match on Saturday, and then Cloud9 as the final boss will play on Sunday. So is CLG stomping Dig a good thing or a bad thing? And I've been really struggling with this because Dig beat us and made us look like a bunch of fools. Granted, Cloud9 was not nearly at like 50% of what their full potential is that day, and honestly just kind of played badly. But I think this is a good thing, maybe because it shows that Dig is not as strong as they looked during the quarterfinals match. And we could probably beat them. But I think the question is, can C9 beat CLG?
That's a pretty damn good question. And really, I think that, one, I think if any C9 fan is nervous, you have pretty much almost every right to be, considering you can really take this whole, semifinals 1.5 million ways. You can take it with a few grains, you can take it with take it for what it is and say, can we possibly beat CLG? And, mind you, I don't think this split we beat CLG at all in a set.
No, we are currently 1-3. We beat them in spring when we were doing that 8-0 undefeated streak. After that, every time we have played against CLG, we have lost, and I think it's always gone to 5 games. It's we have a 5-7 individual game record, but we have, after that match in early spring, we have never beaten CLG.
Yeah. So that somewhat doesn't surprise me. I mean, again, it just comes down to a million little things. To some degree, I think that was a characteristically bad game out of Dignitas for starters. It just seemed like that the coordination from there was times where Shrimp was going in for trades and invades that he should not have gone for and he had no business doing. And knowing how well CLG basically knowing how they didn't want Omar God to get exploited, they did whatever the hell they could to make sure that he was safe. There was times where some of the teams were just not stepping up, and I'm not sure if you guys caught this in Game 3 of Dig versus CLG, but Someday got I'm assuming it's kind of frustration, but also recognizing his role on the team during that game. He got so tilted at the fact that he was the only one doing anything that he built a dust plate on fucking Jarvan, because he's like, fuck this, I'm carrying now. So...
Oh, I actually didn't notice that he built a dust plate.
Yeah.
On
He had 4 kills, and then at that point he just realized, you know what, you guys are kind of dead weight right now. I guess I gotta carry right now. So, I mean, I think that was a characteristically bad game out of Dig. So we'll see what happens in the Gauntlet. I got this really gut feeling though, there's something in my gut saying there's one between Dig and CLG. I was like, if there's one team that I feel like FlyQuest for some strange reason could upset, I got a somewhat gut feeling that it'll be Dig. At least if they play like that, and if FlyQuest can somehow is hiding some hidden strat that will end up winning them the game, this in a one-off chance it could happen. But moral of the semifinals, somewhat of a uncharacteristically good game for CLG, but for the most part I would blame it on very poor and greedy play out of Dignitas.
I think that's actually been a story of Dignitas for maybe the whole year, maybe a bit for this split specifically. They have beaten top teams but also have lost to top teams, and they have beaten lower tier teams but also lost to lower tier teams. So they have been very inconsistent, and the Cloud9 Dig game was kind of a battle of inconsistencies where Cloud9's inconsistency defeated themselves against an opponent they should have just beaten, and all the odds were in their favor. So I definitely agree that Fly can definitely upset Dig. Going back to CLG for a minute, I kind of want to look at what their team does, because this is probably going to be the team that Cloud9 plays, unless Dignitas mans up and beats them, which I think would benefit us because Dignitas would be an easier opponent. But just looking at how CLG operates, they're very macro focused, they're very team play focused. And they also really look to try to force teams to be reactive and play reactively and then punish that. When you look at how Cloud9 plays, Cloud9 is very lane centric. They do sometimes try to be proactive, and they do try to use the map sometimes, but for the most part it's very lane focused. They just try to get lane rotations, try to get Jensen ahead, maybe get Sneaky ahead, or Impact ahead, though if Impact even is ahead, they can't even stretch out that lead and abuse that lead, it seems. But they're very lane-centric, and this forces them a lot of the times, I think, maybe to play reactively, and that's exactly what CLG wants. And I think this is one of the reasons why we have lost to them so much. Not to mention, to add on top of this, that Zix is probably one of the best pick ban coaches in the NA LCS. He is able to adapt. Any time there's a new patch, he's able to go, okay, this is strong, this is weak. Maybe even figure out what the enemy team kind of drafts like and notice drafting patterns, and then use that against them. So I think he's very smart. CLG has been looking really good this split, and everyone seems to be going above their current form that everyone saw last split, or returning to form. So I think Cloud9 definitely has their work cut out for them. Frozencreek, do you see any way that Cloud9 can defeat CLG when the odds seem to be stacked against us?
Yeah, I think that there are some good ways to beat CLG currently. I think that if we're able to come out on top and pick and bans, that we should be able to control the lanes well enough to take advantage of the fact that they do have a young jungler who has shown previously that he will fall into bad trades, and if you can get an invade early going on with priority lanes. And I do think that that's something that Cloud9 focuses a decent amount on. And I think just drafting into a position where we can invade and control, where Omar God can play inside the jungle, that I think that would be our best chance at beating CLG at this point, is just picking winning lanes and trying to snowball that. And I think that in a way we can team fight better than them, but I don't think that a lot of our drafts are focused around winning a team fight. Like just game 3 of Dig and CLG, they had Jax, Cassid, and Tristana. Like, you can't pick many better late game comps than that. And I think that that's their win conditions. And I do think that we do have good enough laners to be able to pick enough advantages based off of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Cloud9 is definitely going to. I think everyone who plays CLG is definitely going to attack Omar, because he's not as smart of a tactician as Dardoch or Xmithy is. So he's definitely going to be, pretty green in terms of strategy. He's going to rely a lot more on mechanics and just game timing that a lot of junglers kind of have. So I think they'll definitely try to attack him, definitely try to make him be very pressured. So I agree that's definitely their way in. Also, a point to throw out, Cloud9 definitely benefits from being first seed, because they're able to observe how the other teams play beforehand, so they have time to assess what the teams think is strong and what is weak, so they can better assess their drafting strategy and maybe how to play around the map, given what CLG likes to do and what Dig likes to do. Do you guys think that this also might hurt the team, because it may make them a bit, trying to think of the right word, maybe a bit lazy,
Complacent?
because complacent, because they only have to play one match instead of multiple matches. Since they are the final boss, in a sense, they just have to wait for the other winner to come forward and then them play, instead of having to be very sharp and go through opponent after opponent.
I mean, it really comes down to how well, they can do their homework. Because, a team like Dignitas or FlyQuest is at an inherent disadvantage, because, they have to completely go from the beginning of the gauntlet and try to come out, off of what is possibly 3 opponents if they do end up qualifying for the World Championship. So it really comes down to how you've used this time between the quarterfinals till now to make sure that you guys haven't gotten lazy or haven't, been doing anything. I know Moon says, the day they learned that, even before they learned that they would be playing the Gauntlet, because there was a chance that they wouldn't if CLG lost against Envious, and that Moon said, they were still taking that time on FlyQuest to scrim as many teams as possible to make sure that they weren't getting lazy. So, you know, and I'm pretty sure, much like a team like TSM, where like you have to get scrim blocks in bulk. Like I wouldn't surprise me if someone like Reaper has already like, you know, ensured that, you know, they've been trying to get these teams in bulk. Granted, they may not be ideal opponents considering most of the top teams have wanted to scrim each other for the most part. But, you know, you are, you know, going to this match cold. So it really, really comes down to how well Reaper and the rest of his coaching staff do their homework on these teams, how they observe how they're playing, and really how they treat them in terms of like, you know, if we do, like, we don't put all our bags on, like, all our eggs into the, just have Jensen win landing on Tugi, or let's get one good collapse on Omar God. Because, you know, Darshan didn't play half bad either. And, you know, Aframu is probably one of the best shot callers in the entire league. So, again, this has been the moral, but again, C9 really needs to do their homework here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Preparation and being prepared is always a great strategy to go. I definitely agree. I guess my final question, do you guys think that Dignitas can actually upset CLG? Or is CLG just going to stomp them again like they did in the third place match?
If the confidence hasn't phased them too much, and if they can take any sort of positive, you know, lessons from their semifinal game, yeah.
All right, Frozen,
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts?
If I were a betting man, I would bet against it. I think CLG did a really good job picking and banning against Dig, and that's not something that we really did. Amakai was banned all 3 games, and they just managed to play around that a little bit better, putting Someday on some stuff that maybe he wasn't quite as comfortable on or wasn't quite as OP. So if I were betting on it, I would 100% put my money on CLG to win it, not 3-0 again, but to come out ahead maybe 3-1. I think that they're going to be a really tough opponent if we come up against them, and I think if I were a betting man at that point, I would not put my money on Cloud9. If I were thinking totally with just my head, thinking with my heart, I would have to put my money on Cloud9, but I think that whoever comes up against Cloud9 is going to have a 60-40% chance to win the matchup.
All right, nothing wrong with maybe being a little insecure in doubting if Cloud9 can do it, especially after the Dignitas game. I will say before we move on that Cloud9 hasn't played in about like 2 weeks. I guess 3, maybe counting leading up to the Gauntlet. And I think in that time, you know, in terms of league time, that's maybe like months. So, you know, going into the match with Cloud9, I think that they will maybe have definitely improved since then. They've had a lot of time off. They've had a lot of time to observe how the other teams are playing, reorient themselves and get their bearings back on how they need to play. Scrim, practice. Make sure everyone is getting enough sleep. Make sure everyone is in tip-top shape. Everyone is confident. So I think they can definitely abuse their time off and be confident enough to win. It's going to be a hard win, but can they win? I think they can. I think the odds are with them. It's going to be very difficult, and if they lose, I'm not going to be surprised, considering how inconsistent they've been this split, but they do have a pretty good chance at winning. So everyone try to keep your expectations reasonable, but definitely still pull for the team.
One motto that we as Cloud9 fans should at this point: don't fucking sleep on the kid.
Exactly. And I guess also just a quick rundown of patch 7.17. This is actually probably the worst patch I've personally seen, at least from a competitive standpoint. LS actually called this the biggest joke he's ever seen. There are no Maokai or Tristana nerfs. There are only small Ardent nerfs and then teeny tiny buffs to Hecarim, Ezreal, and Leona. So pretty much everything is going to be unchanged. This is basically patch 6.16 plus. Nothing has really changed. None of the really big OP picks have really gotten down. Ardent maybe will go a little bit lower in priority, but it's still probably still super abusable. So nothing really, I guess, new to expect, I would say.
Yeah, like
It isn't this patch just a filler patch between the playoff patch and worlds patch?
Yes, this is basically just a little marshmallow
Okay.
patch. I think the worlds patch is going to have a lot of changes though. So hopefully some very healthy changes. I think Tristana did get nerfed on the worlds patch. I'm not sure about Maokai. I think they left Maokai untouched for some weird reason.
I think that the game right now is actually in a pretty good spot. I wish that they would figure out a tiny bit more diversity in mid lane. Like we see Huhi picking Vel'Koz and Aurelion Sol. Like I think that Vel'Koz is just almost there to being in a place where he can get picked. Katarina maybe, but probably not. And I think that there are a couple more mid laners who are just really close to being picked. And I would like to see them pull them out and try and put them in a pickable area in at least maybe some counter matchups or something.
Yeah, I would actually like to really see Aurelion Sol just being an actual meta champion, where everyone other than
I do
Huki is
not.
actually playing them. Well, I think he's such an interesting champion that it would be really great to see him in competitive more and more.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that going into Worlds this time, we are in one of the better metas going into the tournament. Like, or we don't have the Darius meta or the Gangplank meta that we had in Season 5.
Or the Mordekaiser bot meta.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that though. It was so much
oh
fun.
god, don't remind
It
me
was
of
so
the Juggernaut
stupidly
meta.
broken.
Getting PTSD from that.
Yeah, and I think that we are in a place where people can pull out stupid pocket picks that are still viable, like Lulu in Ezreal jungle. And I think that we're really close to seeing a couple of other new pocket picks pulled out. Like we saw Cloud9 pull some out in Season 5, like Vigar and Tristana that no one else was playing. But I think it's really cool to see champions played in weird roles that we're not used to seeing them in, especially Ezreal jungle. I think that that's a really cool idea, and that's something I haven't tried out yet as of now, but it's something I really want to try out within the next week.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe not in solo queue, but definitely in a normals match.
No, I've obviously in solo queue.
Oh, whatever. Have fun. I can't stop you. As long as you're enjoying yourself, enjoying the game, that's all that really matters.
Got the truth.
Frozen, do you want to? Should we touch on any of these extra discussion topics,
I think if we're gonna touch
or maybe
on,
just pick one?
yeah, I think if we're gonna touch on any, we should talk about Jetson not winning the MVP based off of Player of the Game awards.
That's actually a very good topic.
I think that of all the topics that we're gonna be able to talk about this week, this is one the most topical, and two, I think it's somewhat controversial. Based on votes, Jensen was the winner of the MVP award, but since Bjergsen had more Player of the Game awards, he actually won the MVP based off that. And just a reminder, Jensen was the NA LCS all first team mid laner, while while Bjergsen was the second team mid laner. So I think that was kind of expected coming in just based off the fact that Bjergsen has so many Player of the Game awards, but is that fair? I think that there were different expectations placed on the two mid laners, leading to Bjergsen getting more, but that's my opinion.
I definitely feel it was controversial. I disagree that Bjergsen deserved it. I think at this point, Bjergsen has cemented his legacy as probably one of the greatest NA mid laners of all time. He's like the Michael Jordan or the LeBron James of mid lane, and no one will probably ever take that away from him. But I disagree with this because he's on TSM. He has 4 other extremely good players. You know, that team is just, they're the winningest team. You know, they're just so good. To give someone an MVP on that team seems just kind of a slap in the face to someone like Ole or Xmithy, who have done so much individually for their team to get success. And to give him the award based off of player of the game points, which, you know, sure, that is an indicator of who is maybe making all the big plays that are key in winning a game. You know, to take away from someone like Jensen or Ole or Xmithy, who are trying so hard and doing so much on an individual basis for their team to win, I think that's just kind of insulting. And I definitely think that he shouldn't have gotten that award.
I mean, yeah, I agree, but I think Zyrene actually did a really good job in a vlog. I'm not sure if you guys watch it, but if you do, I recommend you take a good look. He did a very good job explaining why he. I think Frozen, you actually made it a point on this, where basically if you look at Zyrene's ballot for All Pro Mid and for MVP, he actually swapped his decisions. So for All Pro Mid, he had Jensen as number 1, and he had Bjergsen as number 2. Whereas for MVP, he swapped Bjergsen to be number 1 and Jensen to be number 2 on that one. And he explained that kind of his rationale for it. And again, this is just, the entire vlog is just him explaining his rationale and his criteria, and what he wants to do ultimately is open up a dialogue. And this is kind of where I gotta agree with him. However, for full disclaimer, I inherently disagree with Bjergsen winning it. I mean, I'm not completely angered by the result, but because he wasn't my first choice, I, by that rationale, would disagree with the choice. But what he explains is essentially that, you know, for the All-Pro thing, what he doesn't like to count, and what he says he doesn't think anybody should count, is intangibles. So whether the guy is the captain or the shot caller, you know, stuff you really can't measure by or you really can't accurately, you know, get a feel for. So, you know, one of the very few things you can look at is, you know, how they play. What you should be measuring the All Pro thing is how are they doing strictly in their role, because it's not fair that let's say someone like Doublelift, let's say he doesn't have that hot of a season, you know, one day, he is the, and let's go back to the meme, he's the B tier 80 carry one day. He shouldn't get points again just because he's a shot caller on TSM. And I'll give you an example right now of a player like that in the LCS, Aframu. Aframu has not been particularly the most impressive support, but he shouldn't get points, you know, as a support just because he's a shot caller, because that's not mutually exclusive to any role, whether that be the top lane, whether it be the jungle. I mean, we have shot callers from all sorts of roles, but when it comes to the All Pro team, it should purely be on their skill in their position. And I believe, and almost everyone can tell you, yes, Jensen, as speaking strictly as a mid, did do better. However, with MVP, that should be counted. And to be honest, as talented as TSM are, as all 5 of those individuals are, value is something that you really can't measure too accurately based on just talent. Yes, you know, people were saying that Haunter should have been MVP, you know, last split, and he was he was a front gunner for it. But, you know, he hasn't been nearly as, you know, he hasn't had to have been as vocal as a shot caller as he was last split when, you know, Doublelift was absent. And then we had Doublelift, who they said should have been MVP back in 2016 in summer. But we see that even without him, they can still function. So if you can show that you can win a split without Doublelift, how valuable of a player can you honestly be? Because again, value isn't something that you can just view. It's just an inherent byproduct of you on your team. So and honestly, Biofrost and Garen have their moments, but they're they're just really good players. I don't see just being a good player as most valuable. If being a good player meant you get the MVP, then Bjergsen should just straight up win almost every other year. Or, you know, Faker should win every year. And I don't think Faker has a single MVP belt in Korea. So, while I do agree that it is a slap in the face of someone like Smithy, who came on a 7th place team, being arguably one of the worst junglers in the LCS, and completely having everyone doubting him, and most people even had Immortals not making it to playoffs. I had them going to relegation in one of my power rankings. But for him to get top 2, and, Olay, who've stepped it the hell up on their roles, I do agree that's kind of a slap in the face because of play of the games, but, I mean, on some level, I don't disagree with the idea that, yeah, Bjergsen did deserve it. And I think that Jensen, the popular vote is nice, but, I mean, Bjergsen just showed that he could step it up more, just ever so slightly more consistently, and I do, again, it's awesome that, he won the popular vote, which to me, even though he doesn't win the award, it's more or less enough.
Very well said. I do agree. That was very well thought out, very well said. Frozen, do you have anything to say on this matter?
My audio just went insane in my ear, so
Oh no.
I missed the last little bit of it. But I think that there is a lot of truth to what you just said in a way, and I don't disagree that Bjergsen didn't deserve it in a way. I think that you could have picked from a host of people, and I think that all of them would have deserved it. And I can agree on the LCS on the LCS team 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. And that's not exactly something that I would have thought of. And I do think that that's a good way of thinking about it. But I kind of have my biggest problem is with the fact that they include player of the games, which it just seemed that during the split at a couple points that Jensen was kind of ripped a player of the game just because someone else played well. And that didn't seem to happen to Bjergsen. It kind of, all those player of the games just kind of funneled into him. Like, even when Bjergsen was playing really well relative to other players, they seemed to give him to other players just based off the fact that Bjergsen or that Jensen was obviously the best player, and this person stepped up and contributed to the one more than normal. And I think that it's more the fact that Bjergsen kind of, I think, got handed a couple more player of the game awards than he would have deserved if they were to switch positions on teams. And I think that if Bjergsen was on C9 playing exactly as Jensen did, and Jensen was in the same position on TSM that Bjergsen is right now, that Jensen would be the MVP right now based off their exact performances throughout the split. And my only problem is with the fact that I think Jensen lost some player of the games based on the team performing well around him, when throughout the split the team kind of fell apart semi-regularly based off that. And I think that when they stepped up, it involved, or that whoever gives player of the games gave player of the game to someone else who stepped up that game, rather than just giving it to the obvious standout player, which would have been Jensen. And I think maybe 80% of our games, like if we were to go back and pick, I think that we would have picked Jensen in more games than he would have gotten player of the game. And I think that using player of the game in the MVP vote kind of stinks in that sense, though. Like, I get it. Like, if it would have been Olay or Smithy, I wouldn't be so not irate about it, but kind of off-put about it. But I think that the fact that player of the game is kind of an arbitrary way to include into MVP votes when it isn't included in any other sport. And I think that if Jensen was given a fair shake at a couple of the other player of the game awards that he could and should have won, that he would have been the MVP this split. But saying that at the end of the day, TSM did win the split, so Bjergsen was a more valuable contributor to his team and into the league standings than Jensen was.
All right. Well, both fair points. If you disagree with our lovely co-hosts, or if you want to add your own points, please make sure to tweet at us or type it down in the comments of this YouTube video. We always like to see what people have to say and interact with them. So definitely see what you have to say, what we have to say, and start a dialogue. But anyway, we're winding down. All right, Frozen, Dr. Manhatten, I want you guys to give me the predictions of the Gauntlet. So give me, who do you think we're gonna play, and who's gonna win?
I gotta go. Is this is one of the very few moments I'm gonna go with my heart in this one. I think we're gonna play CLG, and we're gonna beat them 3-2.
All right, I like the confidence. Frozencreek, is your mind telling you no, but your body is telling you yes?
If I was a betting man, I would say no, but I think that there's a good enough chance here that we can pull it out on Sunday, and I think that it will be against CLG, who will have beaten Dig. I don't think FlyQuest really has much of a chance right now, but I think that we are not in a bad enough position that I would totally write this game off and say that we're just going to lose. I think that it's going to be more of like a 60-40 thing, in that 40% of the time we're going to win, and that's a very good chance. That's almost a coin flip. That is a really good roll on the dice. That's something I would take on if I was playing a game of cards, so I will take Cloud9 in 3-2, I guess.
All right. Well, this is very hard for me. I do think Cloud9 will probably face CLG in the finals gauntlet match. And I've been talking with this for about a week now and wrestling with it about whether, can Cloud9 defeat CLG? You look at historical data, you look at how they played recently, and it's very hard to tell. I'm on the fence about it. I think it'll probably go 3-1 or 3-2. I can't say who will win. I really want to say Cloud9, but the way CLG has been playing lately has seemed pretty good, and they definitely have just as much of a shot at winning as Cloud9 does. So I'm gonna say that I'm on the fence, but I definitely think it'll be probably 3-1 or 3-2, and whoever can get the score advantage over the other is probably the one who's poised to win it. But yeah, those are our predictions.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Because I said it. But, oh,
one more quick question.
Okay.
Captain Flowers finished his first year in LCS. Do you guys approve of Captain Flowers so far? Yes or no?
Man, Captain Flowers.
I love his energy,
Captain
dude.
Flowers makes the games so much fun to watch. I
like Captain
He just
Flowers.
makes it so much fun. He has great chemistry with everyone. He makes all the exciting moments that happen even more exciting because he puts energy and actual passion, and you can feel the passion when he's talking. Like it really penetrates you. And that's why I love hearing him cast.
Yeah, I agree. Him and the new EU LCS guy from the beginning. I think it was the beginning of
Medic?
of the split. Yeah, his first.
Yeah, Medic's super cool.
His first call of, I think it was Mysterious Monkeys and Unicorns of Love, was fucking epic as hell. That shit was like probably the best intro I've seen in League of Legends in general. I'm not quite sure what he said, but yeah, at this point, because it was, what, 10, 11 weeks ago, but that shit was so fucking hype.
Alright.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Does anyone have any moments of the week that they want to share?
I got to meet my hero Travis Gafford up in Boston.
Hell yeah.
Sick. That's nice.
Are you trying to become a journalist of some sort?
Partially. I mean, that's why I like to do like my own little Mondays with Manhatten show, and also, that's just something I like to do as a hobby. But he's also a really good photographer. If you haven't checked out some of his stuff, and really, he's just a really cool guy to talk to.
Yeah, I bet. I've thought a lot about esports journalism stuff. I feel like there's not as much money there as I would hope, unless you're like a top of the line guy. I was a journalism major. I studied journalism for 4 years, so I do respect him and a lot of the work he does. I think he's the best in the business right now. But my moment of the week would have to, I guess, just be a Michigan State victory in college football. That's about it, I think. It's
Alright.
not esports
Well,
related, but it's something.
Well, mine is, and it is Immortal's spectacular throw against TSM. They had a 10k gold lead, 7-0
Don't
kill
encourage
score,
this.
and were pushing down towers like no one's business, and they completely dropped the ball. Oh, it felt so good knowing that a team threw a game in a more spectacular fashion than Cloud9 has in the finals. So thank you, Immortals, for somewhat redeeming us by looking even stupider by comparison.
Yeah, I'm not condoning that, but I will say that it was a spectacular throw, and I'm still disappointed about it, but it is what it is. All right, I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Before we go, also just want to thank Ian, our audio editor. He has been with us for a little while now, and he's just been doing a super good job of editing the audio and making sure that the show is good, it sounds nice, and it's all together, I guess. But he is the glue that keeps this show running. So thank you, Ian, for all your hard work. You are definitely an important cog in our machine, and we appreciate you. So thank you, and keep up the good work. And also thanks to you, dear listener, for listening to the 52nd episode of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Feel free to tweet questions and feedback to us at C9Bodied or email us at bodiedfancast@gmail.com. Questions might be answered on the next podcast, or I'll just shout at you from Twitter. Either works. We're very interactive. So please feel free to tweet at us. We're very friendly. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Yeah, bye guys. Thanks for hanging out.